Okay, so that was the same matchup, if you guys can hear me, 2 years ago at the 2023 Scrabble Players Championship between these two guys, Andy Hoang, Jackson Smylie. Just a matchup for the ages, for the memes. That infamous Lauerer play that was unchallengeable in the situation at hand, but Jackson was like, "That's not a word. I challenge."
I feel like Lauerer gains an extra ER every time we say it. It's just you keep adding syllables. The legend keeps growing.
Yeah. Okay, so both players doing pretty well in the standings, 10 and 5. That is the same record that Nigel Richards currently has. But they're both needing to fight and win a lot of games today and tomorrow to make the finals. Andy made his way very far up in the standings. He was in third place prior to this last game that he just lost. But Jackson to act first, AEMNOPS, a very balanced rack. But is there a bingo here?
Sadly, it's not playing Collins, so there is no bingo here. I promise that it's the last time I will bring up Collins. This is an NWL stream. Looks like Jackson's probably going to be playing short here. I feel like his only long play hitting a double letter score would be something like pay on, which is just, it's not worth blowing up your rack for 20 points. So I'm thinking probably a short play here from Jackson.
Yeah, pay on for 20, just slotting that O between the two double letter scores, keeping MS just very, very mediocre. So I think something like POM, MOP, you could even assume that exchanging the P is a pretty good move here. If you just exchange one, you're drawing into a ton of 7-letter words. So I wonder, maybe even exchanging the M could be worth considering. Jackson's going to take his time here. This is the sort of position he loves to think about, even though it's an opening move. Playing op, also possible PO, MO. Everything is quite good. I think just playing long would be a big mistake. Everything else is very strong. What do you think, Charles?
Yeah, I think playing 2 here makes some sense. A little bit more security towards drawing a bingo. I feel like Jackson probably won't do an exchanging one of those 3-point consonants, just because in either of those situations, an E draw, which is the most likely draw, will actually not result in a 7, and it will result in an extremely paranoid play from Andy in response, if he even plays at all after an exchange 1. So I think this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised he played OM over OP. It could be that that is the better 5-tile leave. But what's a little surprising is that this just gives back a little bit more in terms of overlaps. And it feels like the M is a little bit more workable. But like I said, a very, very strong play to start things off. As expected by Jackson, it might be the best play. And over to Andy with CERRTTU. A little bit of trouble here to start things off, but he'll be able to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to be looking to unduplicate the R's and the T's and play the U off at the same time. He can do that pretty straightforward with Rut next to but given Jackson's play of he does need to think a little bit about defensive considerations. If he can use those same letters in a more defensive way, that would be an improvement. Something like Rut. The OR takes an E, takes letters in front, Rut takes an S. There's not a ton of defensive merit for that. Maybe you can come up with something else.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Kurt and Rom seems decent. As you can't know that Jackson has the P hook for Romp ready to go, but Kurt I don't think takes an S hook and seems quite defensive, keeping ERT very, very strong 3-tile combination. I think that's what I would do here, Charles.
Yeah, it basically forces Jackson to have an S or something through the C, which is possible, or something starting with a vowel next to the M of OM. That's a lot fewer options than Jackson would have after something like Rut. I mean, what do you think, Josh? Does OM signal an S, or could it also signal just like a 5-tile leave, like AEIN, I don't know, R or something like that? He would be bingoing with those letters, but something similar.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time Jackson's going to have an S with the play of OM. Probably not all of the time. Could also maybe be a blank rack. But yeah, Kurt coming down. It took a little bit too long, I think, for Andy to make this play, 2 minutes, 15 seconds, but it's a very good one, and I think he should be glad he took the time to find it. Back to Jackson with canapes on his rack. He can also play Spaceman Manscape through the M, but no reason to do that when you can crush this hook with romp, or even with roms. Canapes is a little bit higher scoring with roms. Just opens a little bit more on the left side, but Jackson's going to take the points here.
Yeah, I think this is a straightforward decision, and we saw Jackson line up that bingo right away, so it took him basically no time to see it and basically no time to play it. A good idea to bang out those straightforward turns really quickly and save time for the tough ones.
Yes, indeed. And Andy has drawn a Q to his RET leave, but he's drawn an S with it. And with those two A's being played by Jackson, Andy will have an option, at the very least, to play cot, either for 22 or 24. I don't really see why there would be a benefit to playing on the left side. I actually think that playing on the right side increases Andy's chance at a bingo next turn, leaves this C open and this A open to bingo through as well. So I think we're going to see cot in short order, unless there's something I'm missing.
No, it looks like cot is the only option, real reasonable option to play the Q. The only other thing Andy could think about is exchanging here, keeping either ERST or maybe HERST. But if you've got 24 points for the Q and keeping back some relatively good stuff, as you mentioned, Josh, the C and the A actually significantly increases bingo chances next turn if those spots stay open with somewhat marginal leave of EHRRS. So I think he has to take the points here, especially he's down. Jackson just bingoed. An exchange here feels like you're ceding too much ground.
Yeah, it's never ideal to keep two duplicate R's on your rack. So Andy's actually going to opt to get rid of one of those and play her. This seems like a mistake to me. The Q is just so bad, but there are potential options for Andy. If he draws a U, if he draws an I, he can play a he maybe next turn. But I really would have preferred to see that Q leave Andy's rack. And Jackson is going to punish this incredibly hard. D-value, I don't believe, was going to play after cot, and now it comes down for well over 80 points. So this is cementing a gigantic lead very early for Jackson.
That went quite poorly for Andy. It might have been, yes, kind of a slight mistake playing her. Of course, you don't know that you're completely changing the bingo status of your opponent. Just so happened in this case, Jackson had an unplayable devalue that all of a sudden scores 89 points. And now Andy is in a really tough spot, still with the Q as an albatross and has drawn the W with it. It's going to be a few turns before he bingos. And as he works towards that, he's just going to be falling further behind.
Yeah, one of the benefits of playing her for some extra points is you do have cot again the next turn for 22 if you want it. Now with this U open, even though the U is the best tile to pair with the Q, and he does not have a good play through it. So I don't think he's going to keep the Q again, but we might see a longer play through the A, hoping for some big Q play. And he's down 135, so he's already probably thinking about, okay, how can I do anything about this deficit? How can I score really big in the next few moves? I think we have to see the Q come off, but we'll have to see what Andy decides.
Yeah, the Q is famously bad, even though it's 10 points. But its upside is if you do manage to hit something big with it, it's often going to be very big. I'd say the Q doesn't have nearly enough upside on this board, even with the open U, to justify keeping it any longer than necessary. So this is a good idea from Andy. I think we should have seen this idea one turn earlier.
Yes, indeed. And okay, Nigel Jackson back to act with ABEINOT. He's up 176 to 63 and almost has another bingo, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has a pretty high probability 7-letter word on his rack, that being niobate. Doesn't play on this board. Actually, neither does anything else. Niobate works with some consonants, but not with the consonants that Jackson has available. So he's probably going to be looking to play short. I don't see a good way for him to play a lot of tiles for a lot of points, so he might be just immediately going for a third bingo.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the play on equity is probably vibe, equity being points plus the tiles you leave behind. Vibe for 27, keeping ANOT looks very strong in a vacuum. However, Jackson has a huge lead, so he's one of those players that takes a lot of thought into how he's shaping the board. I don't know if we're going to see that on this play because it just opens such a nice spot and so much space for Andy to work with. So I think we're going to see something a lot cagier here.
Yeah, I think from Jackson's POV, he's probably thinking Andy made her kind of as a fish and then drew the cue and was forced to play it, rather than sort of the other way around. So Jackson's going to be, his spidey senses might be tingling a little bit. Probably want to put an E in that triple line just for no reason. I think he might have been setting up either BA or BO on top of canapes, making Ba and Opt. That's a kind of a nice interior play. It doesn't really block bingo lines, but it doesn't create any new ones, and it keeps a pretty good leave. So maybe like a tight little play like that, it's called for here.
Yeah, Jackson looking at Bento, a nice 5-tile play to eliminate a lot of the floating tiles on the board. Does create this S hook that Andy is going to use, but it does a great job at not opening anything new, as the S on devalues was already there, and the D devalued also valid. So this is a defensive move, even though it does create a bingo lane for Andy that he will use in short order. I like this decision. No need to keep 1-point tiles on your rack. Jackson's just trying to score his way to victory at this point.
Yeah, and D value does take a D and an S, whereas Bento only takes the S. So there's a small amount of you're creating a new line, but it's actually slightly more defensive than just leaving D value out there. So good idea. Woolers was going to come down either way. And the plus side of this also is Woolers is now right next to the triple word scores. So Jackson's going to have first crack at those high scoring spots, whereas with devalues, it wouldn't have been such an immediate comeback.
And Jackson drawing the first blank on his 5-tile draw. So he's going to be looking a long time on this move for a bingo. But Charles, there is none.
Yeah, indeed. My Quackle is telling me no bingos available. Even something, we're actually seeing a challenge here. We totally missed that. Totally missed the whole.
Oh my goodness. This is a very big shocker. Challenge cam. Working on it. So Jackson challenging, I think, both words here.
Yeah, it looked like
Woolers
both just for
and
security.
Bentos. I think Jackson was pretty sure Bento took an S, but that Woolers looked funny to him. It's a very surprising move. But what might happen now is Andy will make a play giving Jackson somewhere to bingo. So we'll have to look out for that. This is exactly what Andy needed. He needed Jackson to be a little bit trigger happy with his lead. So yeah, a huge surprise there.
Yeah, this is surprising. I guess Woolers does kind of feel like it's just a random word you made up because you're desperate. If you're not aware of what it means, I think it's just an animal that has wool. It does, in Jackson's POV, he can really slam the door shut on this game if he can challenge off Andy's phony bingo. So that might have been what he's thinking there. We'll see if Andy accidentally gives back a bingo. With all those unsynergistic letters, it seems unlikely that Andy will be putting out something that will give Jackson a bingo. But this is a huge break for Andy.
Yeah, this is definitely not going to work out in Jackson's favor, but he does still have a nice 67-point cushion. Andy 1 letter off of big J plays through that L. He can play jails now, and that keeps FIV. Are we going to see something like FILA instead?
Yeah, the S doesn't have a lot of upside on this board. It doesn't really. It had upside with Bentos and devalues available. It doesn't really have it now. I would say, in Andy's shoes, I would try to cash in the J now and worry about the FIV later. Because playing Fila, keeping the JV together, the J still doesn't have a lot of upside. And actually, I shouldn't say that. There is that double letter score next to Woolers. If he plays Fila, maybe he can get something JN there. There's maybe a little bit more upside for the J than there would be otherwise. So as I think about it in real time, maybe this is a better play.
Yeah, I think I like it long term. He's probably going to be able to do something with that J. There's also this S hook on Cot that is available. Okay. If he draws, I guess, an M, there's one M left. He can get Jism and Cots for tons of points. If he draws an E, he has Jive. So I think this is a good decision by Andy. Just keep the J and the V for one turn and hopefully draw something nice. The V can also be used for like Vive and Viva. We'll see what happens. Jackson still with this rack of ADIINR blank, and I think still no playable bingo unless this has given him an 8 or a 10, which would be absolutely insane.
What seems more likely was a 9 through TE, and if he had one there, it would have been blocked. We know that he did not have anything available there, but it did, with that collection of nice letters, ADEIINRT blank, definitely felt like there could have been something there. I wonder if Jackson does something down from the V on this turn. A couple turns ago, he didn't want to do something like that because he was trying to play bingo defense. Now that he's holding the blank, a play like Ver or Vina seems to make a bit more sense.
Yeah, this is now a nice spot for Jackson. He can go on the offensive. When he was ahead by over 100 points, it didn't make sense for him to open this way. But now that he has the blank and he's only up 34, I think it makes sense to play Vera Vina. There's also another fun play. If he wants to keep things closed, he can play admin through the M of ROMs. The problem with that is Andy's likeliest response to that would be a high scoring play onto this triple, which Jackson does not have a letter for. So if he is unable to avoid another big scoring spot, another big scoring play from Andy, things might get a little bit too tight for comfort. So I'm definitely liking the aggressive idea of Vera Vina. But admin comes down. It's a very nice score. Keeping things the way they are, Jackson is ahead, a bingo score with a blank. So this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, when you have the blank on your rack, it just feels like insurance when you're keeping a small lead. Like, well, if my opponent opens up something, scores a lot of points, I'll be bingoing in response, so it's okay. So Jackson might be feeling he doesn't need to rush towards the bingo. He can just play it cool, wait for Andy to do his thing, and hopefully Jackson's ready to capitalize at the right moment. We see it won't be next turn because he's drawn way too many T's.
Yes, indeed. So back to Andy, who does not have that E he kind of wanted. He did not draw that N he kind of wanted. He's got Goji, Koji. These words don't fit anywhere, so it's going to be interesting to see. I guess Goji does fit here. Is Andy going to risk that and open this big triple? Not so sure.
Yeah, maybe at this score he has to start thinking about things like that. Nice thing about Goji is it does set up a new S hook for the S that he has. Again, the S not currently doing a whole lot for him on this board, so if he can give it a bit more utility, that there's some upside there. So I'm kind of liking Goji. There's the downside that it could backfire with like a 60-point Z play from your opponent, but at this score, maybe you have to try something like that.
Yeah, and one benefit is if Jackson can hit this spot or the overlap or the underlap, Andy can draw Kiva, Kiva, which would score 48 points with one of those 4 remaining A's. So he's also setting up an S. He is behind. He still needs to fight to come back in this game. So that might be the right play. It's really interesting to have seen that challenge. It feels like a nice reversal of fate from 2023 with the Lauer play. Yeah, possibly this is Andy's way back into into victory.
Yeah, that does seem sort of like a cosmic correction of fate to have played Lauer, and then Jackson's always on he's thinking you're always just going to be playing phony, so he challenges your valid word of wool is it does seem like there's something bigger going on here.
So Goji scoring 28 here. Andy also considering a Jin, Jin, for 29. Unfortunately, the problem with that play is it keeps KOGVS. That is going nowhere on any board. And Andy is down 60 points. So I think we like Goji. It's aggressive, but it does the things that Andy wants to do in this situation to get him closer to bingo. Both blanks still out. Anything can still happen. And Jackson's gonna have a head scratcher here. He can't really do anything about that that Goji play.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jackson, he's got that F. It seems like it would go so nicely through that eye of Goji, but he cannot make a 4-tile play there. In fact, I don't think with all those T's that he has any 4-tile play there, even keeping the F. He doesn't have the O to go under Goji. He doesn't have the S to do something about tags. Like, this spot is completely staying open, I think.
He has one play here.
Ooh,
that
yeah,
block.
TT.
TT for 15. You hate to see it, but it does get rid of 2 of those T's. And I think Jackson's going to do that.
Yeah, I think that's forced.
It seems so. It seems like it's a forced play. You don't know what Andy's cooking. Maybe he has the Z. Maybe he's setting himself up. That's by far the biggest scoring spot. It's so easy to hit with pretty much any rack except Jackson's.
Oh, he also has Rift there, so I missed 2 words there. Somebody fire me.
Yeah, Rift looks good as well. It scores 9 extra points and keeps 2 of those T's, so it's a little bit more dangerous. You might draw into some unwieldy stuff, but yeah, I think this might be better than TT.
We see Andy has not drawn a vowel. He has drawn the X, but that's not very good for you if you don't have any vowels. So this is a tough turn for Andy.
Yeah, I think he's looking at playing Pax through this A of Fila. That has to be super bad. But he's setting it up now instead. He's playing Cop for a few more points. And now he's set up Pax with maybe Sex or maybe some, if he draws a D, Dex. So that looks like a pretty good option. I don't know if I would have exchanged. I think it's worth just chilling here for Andy. I think this is a good decision.
Yeah, I think the 2-tile sequence of Cop scored 29 points and then hitting Sex there at the very least for some more points next turn. And then if things still aren't to your liking, you can exchange at that point. But for now, he's just going to keep up the scoring. That's actually coming back in this game. He's only down by 26.
Yeah, Jackson drawing very weirdly ZDD to his TIT blank leave. That's not what he wanted. He's considering just playing Zin here in the same spot as Jin was earlier. That's 33. If he draws a couple vowels, he might be able to bingo or do something next turn. He could also just, play here, which makes a lot more sense. Keep the Z, keep Zin available. It's unlikely Andy's going to have a play there. He's keeping his lone vowel. He's keeping balance. I think this is better.
Yeah, I think this is a lot better. There's some upside with the Z here on the rightmost column. Hooking W. If he draws an E, he'd have WE. Z5s would score 50 points there. So it makes sense to just hold on to the Z and see what becomes of it.
Charles, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you seeing what Andy's considering doing here?
Let me see.
Can you?
Oh yeah, he's thinking about Vav setting up one of his the last 2 S's. He's got both of them, but 2 blanks unseen, so it still could backfire.
Oh, he doesn't do it, which is very smart. Jackson would have hammered that spot with the Z and the blank. Vav's coming down for 30. I think this is sensible, but it would have been really cool. I'm glad he lined it up. That's good content.
Yeah, it's fun to think about, but I think this is just a lot safer. Gets him within, it looks like 15 points now. So he's basically back into this game. Still holding the S and the X. That feels really good if you're Andy.
And a great draw for him too, EIO. And that's the thing. If Vav were to come down, Andy would have preferred to have a much better potential follow-up to that. But given that he was keeping so poorly SSNNX, it was just not worth it to set that up, I think. At least short term. Long term, it might have been, because it's so hard to block. Back to Jackson with DINOTZ blank. Now he has the option of playing Zin again. He also has the option that he's looking at. I guess he's looking at Dints. He's up 15. Is he comfortable enough to block that big S lane and keep the Z? I don't know if he's in that position. I think he has a much better option here that he hasn't spotted yet. If he spots it, he's gonna play it in short order.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Diazo burning the blank for 77 seems like the play as long as he sees it. If he would need to sort of expand your horizons a little bit and consider plays that burn the blank, whereas a lot of players, myself included, will, once they have the blank, they sort of think, I have to bingo with this. It's never going to be worth it to play it without a bingo. I think in this case, it is very much worth it.
Yeah, what is he? He's looking at divot. Oh no, this is a really big mistake from Jackson. This does block the S pretty well, keeps the Z in reserve, but he was just not thinking about using his blank. Diazo is a very, very, very big miss here.
Yeah, after something like Diazo, even if Andy bingos to that S and Vavs, like you're still in good shape. Whereas this one keeps the score uncomfortably close.
But Jackson's still in the lead. By 30, he has a blank. Maybe he has 9 lives. We'll have to see what happens in this game. I don't know how many more mistakes are possible here before a fatal one comes into play. But Andy plays Joe and OF really quickly. You might have missed that. I almost did. Keeping EINNSX and bringing the score to within a few points. So a very astute play by Andy, who's trailing. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, good. Just a good scoring play. He's only down by 2 points now. Still has the X for future scoring. Meanwhile, Jackson certainly expected to draw more vowels than he did. If we look at the unseen pool, it is pretty heavily skewed towards vowels. So drawing something like MHYW, not only 4 consonants, but 4 scoring consonants, seemed like almost the most unlikely thing that could have happened.
And you have to wonder, if you're Jackson, why didn't Andy play JOE? He has the same knowledge as Jackson of how many vowels are unseen. So either Jackson's thinking maybe Andy wasn't paying attention to the unseen letters and only had 1 E, but if he only has 1 E, how many vowels does he actually have? Does Andy have a lot of consonants? So it just feels so skewed in favor of vowels. I feel like Jackson is likely to draw 3 vowels, 2 vowels, no matter how many tiles he plays. Yeah, a very bizarre position now that we're in.
Yeah, and Jackson doesn't really have a ton of playable options. He has like WHY, but that doesn't go anywhere. His options might just be like Mick MYC to the C of Kurt. Not a whole lot else that I'm seeing.
Jackson considering exchanging these 3 tiles, going for an E or an I for wins. So he has identified that spot in the top right that he missed last move. This seems like a pretty interesting idea, but yeah, it's possible you want to get rid of a little bit more here, just in case Andy blocks that spot. Then you'll have better tiles to work with on future turns. So a very bizarre position where I do think an exchange is correct, but it's got to feel very uncomfortable to exchange when you're only up 2 points after being up 110 at the beginning of this game.
Yeah, I think an exchange makes sense here, and I think it also makes sense not to just go all out for wins, just because that spot is the most likely spot for Andy to play next turn. You can't really count on that spot staying open.
Indeed, and this spot on the bottom, although it is also a triple, is way harder to access. A 6-letter word required. 5-letter words way more common. There's so many more combinations of tiles that can make a 5-letter word on a 7-tile rack. So Andy with AEINNSX. Do you play Axe and AT? Set up 2 lanes for yourself? Isn't Jackson just gonna come over that and block it? But that's okay. Andy's back in the game. The score is tied. I think AX might be a great play here.
Yeah, he does have to be thinking about the fact that there are 2 blanks out. Jackson just exchanged. Starting to get more likely that Jackson's going to have a blank and possibly hit back after something like Axe. But there are 2 spots available after Axe. I guess they could both get blocked if Jackson fully overlaps it. So I'd be a little bit hesitant about Axe, but might come around to it in the end.
Yeah, and if there was maybe some play from the C, like K9 looks incredibly dangerous, but something that used the X or something a little bit less dangerous, just to go for a blank and keep the X in reserve. Andy is 1 tile off of plays like Axone, Axile. Those won't score that much, but he can kind of think about that as a potential thing if he's thinking about keeping the X, but I think you get rid of the X here.
Yeah, he could also, I don't know if this has any merit whatsoever. He could do Xenia to the other side of Woolers. That keeps NS drawing into a bag that has a lot of vowels. Opens up an E to bingo through, but doesn't really do much about the right side of Woolers. You can still end a 5 with an E after that, making AWE. Also plays through the X could be damaging. So for only 29 points, doesn't seem quite worth it, even though it does some decent things.
Honestly, Charles, I am loving that play of Xenia. I don't know if it's just me, but it looks great. It accomplishes so many goals, scoring points, going for a blank. I actually really love it. The game being tied right now, Andy just going under 10 minutes, thinking about his move. It's dangerous, certainly, but it's the exact type of danger I think Andy wants in this situation after a 4-tile exchange from Jackson. So we'll see what he does.
And Jackson has drawn Gauze in that Wooler spot where he missed Diazo a couple turns ago. We'll see if he's remains unaware of that spot or if he's sort of broadened his horizons a little bit more. He's still not drawn well, so he's still going to just be thinking about playing for points rather than bingoing. We do see Andy setting up Xenia. He's probably thinking about it the same reservations that I had about it, that it puts the X in the triple lane. It might be giving back 40 points for no reason, but it does some nice things.
Nick's here, like putting the X right next to the dull word has to be more dangerous. You're not opening as much space, so Jackson's just going to be able to pounce on that spot. I feel like you play Xenia here, even though ANS is a slightly better leave.
Although again, with now we're looking at 16 vowels to 14 consonants, it's possible that NS just by itself without the A is a little bit better, just given that you're probably drawing multiple E's and I's. I certainly wouldn't be sad to play all my vowels in this situation. Ooh.
Whoa.
Okay, he must be going for something that I don't see right away. Maybe N next set under divot if he draws an E.
Yeah, but why? That's an interesting idea. I mean, he's just keeping things contained, but yeah, Bond's coming down. That blank is an O. Yeah, Andy making that play, I feel like he was just a little bit like, I don't want to open something big for Jackson on this board, but Bond's coming down. That was Jackson's plan, drawing a big play there, keeping Zien blank on the last turn. And we'll see what Andy is thinking. If he draws an E, he does have Annex, like you said, underneath, but he's drawn an A. So now I feel like something like Axe is kind of forced, and it's such a worse position to play it in now that Jackson has a 70-point lead. But he will play it, and Jackson does not have a vowel to go atop this X. He can't block AXE, and he can't block this lane unless he can't do anything about this. This is actually crazy, and he's still in this.
Yeah, Jackson's had some rough timing this game with just draws that aren't working out, and this is another one of those, as you say, Josh. That axe spot is probably staying mostly open, even if Jackson does something hooking AT. The AXE spot is just going to be sitting there. So still some life for Andy. He's down by 42 points. He's at this point probably just going to be looking to bingo at some point. It feels like it's been a long time coming, but he's really benefiting from the fact that Jackson can't do a whole lot about this spot.
Yeah, Jackson up 42, so he's probably feeling okay here. I don't actually know. This double-double, if Andy hits it, what's unseen to Jackson is scary. 42 points is not a good lead here, and he just has such bad options. What do you even do if you're Jackson?
Yeah, like do you play like hug or something, making get, but then you're keeping two I's and a Y, which is like horrible. That is exceptionally bad leave. But he doesn't really have any way to use a Y and an I at the same time while hitting that spot. So it's honestly a very, very tough and sad position for Jackson.
Yeah, is there an R or H that can go here? I mean, both of those look like words. Something to hope for maybe on a future turn, some sort of overlap. But it's just, wow, it just feels so sad. Jackson thinking about maybe grin, maybe rig. It's crazy that he just doesn't have a way to block. Andy has drawn MY, so I don't think he will be bingoing, but Jackson has no idea what Andy has. He's got to be really worried here.
Yeah, the thing Jackson's from Jackson's POV, Andy just played Chi. He played off one tile for 13 points. That feels like a fish. It feels like a fish for something. Um, so and then he's probably thinking, well, Andy fished and drew the X, so that's why he played X. So he's at this point, yeah, Grin I think is a decent idea. Just take out the AXE spot, and then hopefully next turn you can take out the AT spot on top of X.
Right, for those wondering why AX over AXE, it sets up two bingo spots. It's a board forking play for these two spots. So that's why the E was not played. Yen coming down for 22 very quickly for Andy Hoang. I wonder why he did that.
Yeah, he did have plays overlapping X, but he probably just didn't like what they did to his bingo chances. Like he could do something like Meanie or Yamen or just many. Probably wouldn't do many because MAT doesn't take much in front of it. But he could have maintained bingo options while scoring more points and also getting rid of the M at the same time.
Right. YEN does take an E hook in the North American lexicon only. So that is another lane that if he drew an E, he gets. And he does have mangers here, but Jackson's drawn the second blank, which must feel pretty good. He might still lose, though. What is he going to do to inhibit this spot?
Yeah, his options for actually playing there to block. It looks like he's maybe thinking about burning his blank to do it. Actually, I don't know what is he thinking that maybe he can make the blank a C? I don't think uke is a word.
Yeah, I think that is what he's thinking. And if that comes on the board, Andy will have an absolutely incredible opportunity to win this game if he just pulls the trigger on the challenge. But we do know Andy does sometimes struggle with word knowledge. But I think that's what Jackson is thinking. Play YEUCH. And if this gets challenged, it's probably GG.
Yeah, but also if it doesn't get challenged, it's like very close to GG the other way because it blocks iron and also blocks sat. And if Andy makes plays overlapping uke, we expect this to be a C. Jackson can just immediately start closing things again. We do see the blank. We have an access to a blank ham. He did circle a C.
Oh, no hold. Andy, what are you doing? No. Wow.
Okay, so that play is accepted. Jackson has tiles. It's too late to do anything about it. A nice phony there from Jackson. I think that does all the right things other than runs the risk of being challenged off the board.
This is, I guess, everything we could have hoped for this rematch. Just insane phonies, challenges, nonsense going on in this game. Andy had every incentive to challenge this word if he wasn't 100% sure. But
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to spell yuck, and this is not one of them. But Y-E-C-H, Y-U-C-H, Y-U-C-C-H. This could have just been one of many variant spellings. So I feel like Jackson probably had an inkling that this wasn't good, but had an inkling that it had all the properties of a word and might
there's
stay on the
no
board.
way. There's no way he would have made this if he had any idea that this could be phony. My goodness. But it's not over. It's not over. Jackson has used both blanks for non-bingos. There are 4 tiles unseen. Andy is still within range to win if he bingos next turn. He's just going to have to look for the best possible fish. He has some space to work with. He's got to look to see if there's maybe something he can draw to this S. It might require a 2-tile play. My idea here at first glance would be to play 1 or 2 tiles around this area to set up a new line and try to hit something to the S as well. What are your thoughts, Charles?
Yeah, that would be my first thought too. Just like dumping the M on top of uke, setting up like emu or something. But you'd have to make sure, you'd have to do some diligence to make sure that you actually do have a bingo on the bottom of the board. It probably would need to end with like ENS or something. I actually don't know how many of those are actually available here. We'd have to do a little bit of parsing to see. The pool is small enough and it's got enough duplicate letters in it that you could actually just iterate through the letters and see what you could draw that would play down there. Downside is Andy's down to under 5 minutes on his clock. Might not have time to do that all completely accurately.
Yeah, and this is getting crazy. Jackson's rack so terrible. I can even imagine if Andy does something like MASE or MESA, I mean, for 31, getting himself within 25 points. WAUL is in the bag. I think he's still losing, but it's getting really close. I don't know. Andy has very good chances here, I think, to take this crazy unlikely victory from Jackson. But yeah, WAUL, those are the tiles that are actually in the bag. Andy doesn't know that. Andy is looking at all 11 of these tiles. I think he's hoping to draw an I potentially next turn, but he will not draw an I. Jackson has all of them. So
Yeah.
action.
If he draws an I, he actually has Syringe on top of Grin, which is kind of a bingo line that we're not really thinking about. That is kind of an escape valve with an I draw. Maybe makes a 1-tile fish a little bit better. I'm also seeing pointed out in chat, and thanks for the extra info. He could hit an NESS bingo on the bottom of the board to that S. So he could fish off the R and go for gameness is one example of something he could try to do. So he does have maybe a few more options for bingoing than I thought at first glance. But yeah, as you said, Josh, with Jackson's horrible letters, that could still happen.
Is grimness not a word? What if Andy plays AG?
Ooh, yeah, that's a fun idea. That would give him 3 chances to draw the I, as we see Jackson has all 3 I's. It looks like Andy might be going for just MI next to Bonds, but that doesn't set up anything new for him. It just, I think, is going straight up for Syringa.
Yeah, he's not going to draw an I. He's going to draw one of ALUW. I don't know if he has anything that is going to hit here. Angler's not fitting. Nar's not fitting.
So, Josh, what do you think about putting emo here instead of mo? That feels considerably stronger, setting up SER.
Oh, that is a great idea, setting SER up. I think Andy must have missed that. He's drawn the L for anglers. is there nothing? There's nothing through the S though. So Jackson, if he just empties the bag here, is going to win, but he's considering SEI. The problem even for Andy is if he drew Syringa, that's a pretty airball like bingo, and he's not down by 40, he's down by like 60, so that might not have even done it for him. Jackson doesn't empty the bag. He's thinking about SEI. Unseen to him, really not much to worry about, Jackson, despite his terrible, terrible tiles.
Yeah, from Jackson's POV, there's nothing that ends with an A, at least not that I see. So the spot on top of Grin basically doesn't exist. Oh, he's going for Guy here. This seems as there's something we're missing. It feels like the spot on the bottom should be more his priority. Maybe he's just trying to stop Andy from making one last desperation opening in that spot.
Yeah, I wonder, but now there's still chances to draw something for Andy on two sides of the board, potentially, at least like theoretically. So if he makes a one tile play here or here, there are now two lines that Jackson can't block simultaneously. I think Jackson will still be fine. The last tile in the bag is an A. Is there anything that Andy can hit?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right away. I feel like it's close, but not quite.
Andy under 2 minutes here. What a crazy, crazy game we've just witnessed.
Yeah, I feel like from Andy's point of view, he might try to play off the R and go for gainless. There's still two eyes unseen. Because the I is the most likely draw here.
Yeah.
Might just play off the R.
Yeah, from his perspective, he draws one of those two eyes and it's GG. He's just not going to draw it. He's going to draw an A, which hits Galinas and Anlages. Jackson only now needs, I think, to block over here and make sure he doesn't give back a spot for Anlages, Lasagna. Lasagna's is not going to fit through this S. I think Jackson has won this game.
He does have to be careful though, because if he puts the I or the E or even the O on top of RE, like to make a 4 or something, he's giving back Seer or Soar or Sire. So there's a little bit of, he needs to be careful here not to accidentally give back overlapping plays with his blocking play.
Yeah, he's looking at Lieu. Is that Galinas?
This feels safe because of the U. The N needs to go there, so it's pretty easy to calculate.
Yeah, so just making sure he knows what Andy has and that there is no way to fit something above that U. He hasn't hit his clock yet. This looks like a winning move. It sets up OW as well, which is kind of a nice touch. And we might see Andy try something crazy here. This is the time where he's going to make he's likely to make a desperation phony. The reason, by the way, for those wondering, if they saw that intro video that Andy played that ridiculous Lauer phony, is that he had a tie. He was in between wins in the standings. So when you have a tie, the tie break, which is point spread, the differential between all of your games combined, doesn't really matter because you're in between standings. So I think maybe Andy's not going to do what he did 2 years ago that made everybody on the internet go crazy.
Yeah, that wasn't an everyday thing for Andy. That was specific to his circumstances in the tournament. Playing without a tie here, he's got to take it a little bit more seriously. Can't just throw whatever he wants onto the board. So we're expecting like a 20-point play here, possibly involving Seer and Jackson taking this win.
Yeah. I think probably Andy's best play is Galina or Anlage. Keeping the S for next turn. He's running out of time looking at Gala and LA, which won't give Jackson an outplay, but Jackson's just going to play OW very quickly. And Andy will go out with his ENS. What an incredible incredible game. Some very, very surprising things happened.
Yeah, this one was full of surprises, like phonies, intentional or not, challenges, missed plays, bad draws. This game had it all.
Yeah, totally crazy. We should look for the next round pairing. I haven't been thinking about that. So I'm going to take a look at that while this game takes its final. What is the word? I've been trying to use a word to say it takes its final, uses its final. Anyways, I'll figure it out. ENS and Cats coming down. Let's listen to the overhead mic and find our matchup for next round.
398, 452. Yeah. Nice job staying.
Yeah, I'll have to pull an eye.
For
Game was,
okay, nice.
and then, but I
Yeah,
guess
that's good. I mean, I would have wanted if you drew. I had both with Uke, but
this block my bingos,
would you have?
majors, and grands.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like you had. I just couldn't afford to let you bingo.
I think this was good. I mean, I was going for Syringa. I missed.
With this? I see. Syringa like here. Yeah, honestly, the fact that I had 2 eyes with this is actually pretty good for me because it really made it harder for you to bingo.
Yeah, the eye.
Yeah, I was really good for bingoing there. This is a great play. Yeah, you did a good job putting pressure on.
Yeah, I was fishing for Nixier Annex when I played this or this.
Okay, I was kind of doing the same with Z,
Yeah.
but yeah, super interesting game. That was the one upside of me challenging this is that it became a really interesting game. Would not have been as interesting if I let it go. Wow.
Alrighty, so that was a little bit of a zoom in on the thoughts of both of these players at the end of round 2 of day 3 of the Scrabble Players Championship.